We're back for more daily college basketball best bets. Today is Friday, February 7th, and we've got more college basketball coming for you here on the channel today. Yesterday, not a great day. It was a 2-3 day. It was salvaged. Not really salvaged, but I mean, it could have been a lot worse if UC Davis didn't pick up that win in overtime, the win and the cover in overtime against Long Beach State. And oddly enough, both of our wins yesterday were from teams that had already lost to their opponents earlier in the season. Again, with the UC Davis Aggies on the road in Long Beach, and with the Campbell Fighting Camels beating Elon, a team that they lost to early in the year. Our other losses, they sucked. The one that sucked the most was Bryant. Just not even playing. They got back in the game late in the second half, but I mean, they were 10.5 point favorites and they lost outright at home. Disgusting. Their first loss in the American East. I didn't understand that game. They looked horrible on offense. It's the worst game I've seen the Bryant Bulldogs play all season long. But we're trying to bounce back today. We've got only 7 games today in college basketball, but of course we picked out the best 5 for this best bet video. And folks, before we get into it, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily college basketball best bets here on the channel. And also, again, tomorrow is Saturday. Huge college basketball slate. We got a light goal to reach for that video. I'm not going to bump it up too high, but let's just shoot for 110 likes. We've been doing 100 likes every single week. Let's do 110 likes now for 10 best bets tomorrow instead of 5 for that huge college basketball Saturday. And also, folks, make sure to go check out our NBA predictions posted later today in a couple hours. I think we've got 7 games in the NBA as well tomorrow. No, we got 6. No, we got 7. 7 games in the NBA tomorrow. Make sure to check that video out again, or today, obviously. Make sure to go check that video out in a couple hours. And also, make sure to check out our UFC 312 predictions tomorrow night. UFC Championship on the line in the middleweight division. Dricus du Plessis takes on Sean Strickland for the World Championship. Make sure to check that one out. Link in the description down below. All right. On to the first of our 5 best bets today. We're starting in the Ivy League. I know. I think the last time we visited the Ivy League, we didn't get that one right, and that was a game that involved the Princeton Tigers. We had Princeton in a home spot against the Yale Bulldogs, and they lost the game by 7 points. I believe they were, 4.5 point dogs in that game, if I wasn't mistaken. I think. Regardless, we're fading Princeton here after they didn't come out the right end of that victory, or that game that they played against Yale. Princeton's a 4-2 team in the Ivy, taking on a 2-4 Pennsylvania team. Pennsylvania might be the worst team in the conference other than Columbia, who is 0-6 in the Ivy this season, even though they went into Ivy League play 11-2. But I think Pennsylvania is able to keep this game close. 7.5 points, that's a lot. Again, guys, Princeton can win the game by 7 points, and we still cash with the Quakers. I'm going to take UPenn to win, to cover the basketball game. Who wins? I don't care. You're going to hear me say that a couple times today because there are situations like that later on in the video. I think Pennsylvania, covers. I'm pretty confident in that. I don't know who wins the basketball game. If I had to give you a pick, it would probably be Princeton, obviously. But we did decide to go with this game instead of, I can just tell you who the other 2 games that we're not picking today are. VCU and Dayton. I was leaning Dayton, but I can't confidently tell you that the Flyers win that game at home. USC Purdue. I was leaning actually USC plus 13.5, but again, I just don't feel good in picking the Trojans in West Lafayette. We're going to stay away from both those spots. So the other 5 games we're obviously picking today. I think UPenn's able to keep the game close. Again, it's an Ivy League game. These are usually competitive for the most part. Princeton has lost 2 out of the last 3 games, back-to-back losses to Cornell at home and Yale at home. They did beat Brown, but the Brown Bears aren't great. They're a 2-4 team in the Ivy. I'd say arguably, they're better than Pennsylvania, though, because they beat Pennsylvania. But, sometimes it doesn't always work out. On top of that, by the way, Princeton's coming to Pennsylvania for this game. And I get it. UPenn has lost back-to-back basketball games. They lost to Brown by 9. They lost to Yale by 29 points. That's a lot. But matchup-wise, I do think the Quakers match up somewhat well to the point that they can score, and they do play all right defense. Ethan Roberts is the best guy in this Quakers team. He averages 18 points a night. Nick Spinoso averages 12.5, and Sam Brown will give you 11 a night. For the Princeton Tigers, we talked about Xavier Lee being the star player of this team. Obviously, Lee giving you 16, 5 and 5 on a nightly basis. Caden Pierce is their big. He averages 12 and 8. He's a pretty good forward for this squad. Blake Peters averages 10. But it's Princeton going on the road for the first time in a while. I think it's going to be somewhat of a tough game. I think so. Again, this is not a Princeton team that's been playing very well as of late. Even like when you look prior to the Yale and Cornell victories, again, they had 4 straight home games. They haven't been on the road since January 18th, where they went on the road and only beat Dartmouth by 1 point. So it's not like Princeton's been beating down anybody. Hell, we look at Princeton's all their victories, honestly. I mean, we go back to December 10th, and actually they have a victory over St. Joseph's back on December 3rd, and that's going to, I mean, not going to play a huge factor in our video today, but we will talk about the Hawks later today when they're playing St. Louis, obviously, in the A10. But you look at all of Princeton's victories, they're not blowouts, except for their win over the Brown Bears in their last game. Again, that's the exception. But, like, hell, go back to their victory against St. Joseph's on the road. That's a great win, by the way, winning that game by 8 points. But after that, they lose to Furman on the road. They beat Monmouth at home by 4 points. They beat Rutgers, very good victory. They beat them by 1. But then you look, all right, Akron win, good win. They beat them by 1 point, though. They go to Harvard, win the game by 4. They go to Dartmouth, they win the game by 1. They beat that lowly Columbia team that is 0-6 in the Ivy League. They beat Columbia by 4 points. You know, they're not blowing anybody out. Hell, Pennsylvania beat Columbia a couple nights ago. I guess it was a week ago now. But they beat they beat Columbia by, I think it was 15 points. Yeah, 93-78. So Princeton, again, going back to Princeton, though, they beat Columbia, then they lose back-to-back to Cornell and Yale. Sure, they blow out Brown, but Brown's always been abysmal. Actually, they haven't always been abysmal. They've been abysmal this season, okay? And I know what you're thinking. Yes, Pennsylvania just did lose to Brown. I get it. Princeton's got to go on the road. They have not covered this line on the road all season long. I don't think this is going to be the first game. Pennsylvania, again, has been at home for quite a minute. This is Princeton's first road game in 4 weeks. I think the Quakers are all right in this spot. We're going to side with Ethan Roberts, who I think is the most effective scorer on the court. Sure, again, you get Xavier Lee for Princeton, who's very good as well for the Tigers. But I think Roberts is an all-around very good scorer. This is a guy who can shoot it. Again, this is a guy who scores 18 points a game. He'll give you 6 rebounds as well. You're going to see the forward matchup between Spinoso for the Quakers and with Caden Pierce for Princeton. So I think it's a fairly even matchup with the game being played in Pennsylvania. I do think Princeton wins, but with the 7.5 points that we get, I feel fine playing the Quakers here. It's going to be Pennsylvania plus 7.5 at home here in the Ivy League against the Princeton Tigers. Let's move on to our second best bet of the video as we move to the Big East. It's a huge game. This is probably the biggest game of the day. I think undoubtedly the biggest game of the day. The St. John's Red Storm taking on the UConn Huskies. So St. John's, we successfully picked them in their last game, obviously at the Garden against Marquette. They beat Shaka Smart and the guys in the goal Shaka Smart and Marquette by 6 points. They beat the Golden Eagles by 6 points. Good victory. A lot of foul calls in that game, but a good win for St. John's. They played great defensive basketball all around in that one. Obviously, that huge possession at the end of the game where they get that huge block. It just, again, it was relentless defense out of the Red Storm in that basketball game. And now you get UConn. So if you want to map out the Big East, to me personally, I think it's St. John's 1. I feel pretty confident in that. Then you get both Creighton and Marquette. I don't know where you want to place both those teams. Honestly, you can place Creighton, Marquette, and UConn all in the same. Like, they're next up, right? I think it's pretty obvious right now, at least, St. John's is the best team in the conference. But then again, it's just Creighton, Marquette, UConn are all right there. Obviously, we expect all 4 of these teams to make the tournament. Creighton has pulled up some huge upsets all season long. Hell, they have victories again, both over UConn and St. John's this season. It's actually the Red Storm's only loss all year, at least in the Big East. But this is a tough spot for St. John's. Obviously it is. They are underdogs going into Connecticut for this basketball game, and I get why. Dan Hurley at home, he's hard to beat in general in the Big East, and now you got to go on the road and play this team. Hell, Creighton has done it and won so far in the Big East, again showing you how great the Blue Jays have been this season. But UConn's coming off a huge victory again over Marquette. Back-to-back wins, or I guess back-to-back losses for Marquette against both UConn and St. John's. But I would say UConn's victory was a lot more impressive. They go on the road to Marquette. We expected the Huskies to cover that game. Well, no, they win the game outright. So I would say ultimately that's a more impressive performance. And a huge factor in this game. I don't know what Liam McNeely is going to be in his return game. Obviously, he has not played since January 1st with the road win against DePaul. But this is Liam McNeely's first game in over a month. So he's back. And that just gives UConn just a whole nother dynamic to their team. Again, solo ball, Alex Caravan are the leading scorers of the squad. You kind of point towards Caravan as being the guy. You get Diarra as well, who's been very effective for this team this season. Terrace Reed has been pretty good, but then again, you add another one of their star players and a future NBA prospect, obviously, in Liam McNeely, this 6'7" freshman. He's good, man. McNeely can score, and he's an all-around very good basketball player. So, again, in his absence, UConn has, still continued to win basketball games, obviously. They've only lost, they lost 3 games without McNeely in the lineup at Nova. The Creighton loss at home, and then at Xavier. But Solo Ball's done a great job scoring. Caravan hasn't really, on paper, Caravan's supposed to be great, obviously. Another guy who's going to be in the NBA someday, but it's been Solo Ball who's been really pushing the charge for UConn. Hell, in the Marquette victory on the road in Wisconsin, Ball with 25 and 11. It was a big performance out of Solo Ball, again, that propelled UConn to victory. For St. John's, again, a great basketball team, right? They're on a huge winning streak. They haven't lost since that loss at Creighton on December 31st. And oh, by the way, they lost that game by 1 point. They've been able to go on the road and win. Their last road game was in DC at Georgetown. They beat the Hoyas 66-41. But, Sorber and Georgetown have been very shaky this season. I would argue they've just been bad this year. St. John's' other road victories, they go to Rhode Island and beat Providence by 2 points. They go to Seton Hall and win, and I think the most impressive road victory by far has to be their win in Cincinnati against Xavier, winning that game by 10 points. I think UConn can get this one done, though. If St. John's plays the type of game that they played in their last one against Marquette, against UConn, they're going to lose, especially with the amount of missed free throws. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, that was a horrible free throw night. I mean, I think Kaderi Richmond alone was just... This guy is now shooting 49% at the free throw line this season. It's insane. You are a senior guard and you shoot 49% from the line? I mean, those are center numbers, but even worse. Richmond, obviously a former Seton Hall player, so I guess that makes sense, But it's just, I don't know. If St. John's plays that type of game, sure, they played great defensively against Marquette, but if they play and they shoot the way and offensively, I don't think they're going to get bailed out with a lot of the calls that they got in that game. And hell, again, I had St. John's in that basketball game. I was very happy the Red Storm pulled that one out, but they did get a lot of favorable calls for them in that game, and they didn't shoot all that well at the free throw line. Sure, again, I'm not denying how great this team is defensively, and they had some big moments on offense in this game as well, but you're taking on a UConn team, you're going to Connecticut, it's a huge game for both squads, and the Huskies get McNeely back. And I don't care if McNeely, again, he might put up 15, he might put up 20, hell, he might score 10, but again, it's just the dynamic of having another star player on the court. It makes it that much tougher for the St. John's Red Storm to win this basketball game. I'm taking the UConn Huskies at home to win and to cover the 2.5 points. It's a huge victory for UConn, again, solidifying themselves within the top 4 of the Big East, obviously, with St. John's, Creighton, and the Marquette Golden Eagles. Give me UConn. Let's move on to our third best bet of the video as we move to the Mountain West. The first of 2 Mountain West games today. We start off here at the San Jose State Spartans going on the road to Boise, Idaho to take on the Boise State Broncos. I kind of like San Jose State this year, man. I kind of do. The more I keep watching San Jose State, the more I continue to like this basketball team. And it all starts with their 2 British guards in Josh Uche and Latrell Davis. I mean, these 2 guys are straight hoopers. Uche's been the leading scorer all season long. Uche's a guy who's going to give you 17 points a night. But man, Latrell Davis can shoot. Latrell Davis hit the game winner against New Mexico, and this guy plays 50 minutes against Fresno State. Latrell Davis doesn't come out the basketball game, basically. He does not come out the basketball game, 49 minutes to be exact, but Latrell Davis with 30 points, 6 from 11 from beyond the arc. This man is a lethal shooter. The game before against Air Force, 3 for 3 but beyond the arc. The San Diego State loss, 5 for 7 for 3, 23 points. Again, I don't bet player props. I don't even know what the lines are for player props. But if there's a Latrell Davis line, I'd take it. Latrell Davis has been that good for San Jose State. And he's going to be the guy, if he sticks around next year in San Jose, he'll be the guy that's going to take over, and he will be the guy for San Jose State next season with Josh Uche, again, their other British guard from London, England, who's been phenomenal this year as well. Again, Uche, 30 in the win over Fresno State, 24 in the victory over Air Force, 21 in the loss against San Diego State. These 2 guys keep San Jose State going, and you got to talk about Will McClendon as well. But McClendon, honestly, he's been good all year long. But he's taken somewhat of a step back, obviously, with the emergence recently of Latrell Davis, who's always been a capable guy here for the Spartans. And Robert Viola has been their center. He's done a decent job on the glass this year, had a very impressive performance again in the New Mexico game. And San Jose State's coming off of that double overtime victory against the Fresno State Bulldogs. a game where Fresno State got so many calls, but San Jose State goes and to the Valley and wins that matchup, that little rivalry game there at the Save Mart Center. Big win for the Spartans, and now they get Boise State. Boise State, a team on a 3-game winning streak, wins over Nevada, Fresno State, and UNLV. But the first time that the Broncos and the Spartans met this season, Boise State only won the game by 2 points. Now San Jose State goes on the road, and they are 14.5-point underdogs. I'm not telling you San Jose State's going to win. I don't think they're going to. But against a Boise team, which, yes, they've caught on fire recently, they've been better. They've still been very disappointing this year. They're 8-4 in the Mountain West. This is a team that was expected to win the Mountain West. Obviously, it feels like that's either going to be New Mexico or Utah State this year, but I really think it's going to be the Lobos the more and more we see out of that team. Guys, Donovan Dent is a top 10 player in college basketball, and he might be top 5. Donovan Dent's that good, and if he played at Kansas or Duke or any Power 4 school in the country, Power 5 school in the country, whatnot, you'd know who Donovan Dent was, and Donovan Dent would be on the national, headlines every single night. It's just because he's a New Mexico Lobo is the reason why they don't talk about him as one of the best guards in the country, if not the best players in the country. But Boise's been disappointing. They're 8-4 in the conference, 16-7 as a whole. Again, they're nowhere near the level of Utah State and New Mexico. Hell, we saw them go to Utah State and lose, and then when they went to the pit, they lose by 19 points to the Lobos, again, showing you just how great New Mexico is this season. Tyson Degenhart leading this team in scoring. He's good. I'm not going to deny that. Degenhart's great. 18 points a night for Boise State. But again, I want to look back at that first game that Boise and San Jose State played. Boise wins it by 2. San Jose State was winning in the first half. Again, Boise came on late, ended up winning the basketball game. But SJSU played great in that basketball game. They were plus 8.5-point dogs in that one. Now they get 14 points on the road. Sign me up. Guys, this is an explosive scoring team. I was very against picking San Jose State early in the season because they didn't have an identity. It was, maybe Will McClendon's our guy. We're going to really rely on McClendon to shoot, and then UJ will be here as well. But no, be honest, guys, the more they've played Latrell Davis and the more confidence Davis has gotten from beyond the arc, the better the Spartans have been. I'm serious. I think Latrell Davis is the deciding factor of this basketball team. So again, you have a guy in UJ who's really come on. UJ's been, scoring 20 points at night and a night at a minimum. And now you get Latrell Davis who's going to score at least 20 as well with the shooting. I like the Spartans a lot, man. They've kind of figured it out as Mountain West play's gone on. Again, they're 5-7 now in the Mountain West. I don't think they beat Boise State, but 14.5 points, that's just straight up disrespectful. They played very close against Boise the first time around. I get it was in San Jose. Now they just got to go to Idaho. I think San Jose State keeps this game very close. I think this is a game that's going to go down to the wire the way that San Jose State's been playing recently. I think they give Boise a really good test. But honestly, this is probably my favorite pick of the night. San Jose State plus 14.5. If I'm being honest, this line should be 6.5. I think San Jose State's playing that hot of basketball right now, and I get it. Boise's been winning games in their own right as well. But I think SJSU is really able to stay in this basketball game. Guys, the one comparison I'll make with you, Boise State during this homestand, or the previous homestand that they had, beat Nevada by 10 points. I'd argue San Jose State right now beats Nevada. I would. I know they played Nevada like 3 weeks ago. They lost in Reno. When Nevada comes to San Jose in a couple weeks, and a week from today, we're taking the Spartans. 100% we're taking San Jose State to beat Nevada. So just watch out for San Jose State. They're playing much better basketball right now, and they're really figuring it out. So give me the San Jose State Spartans to cover the 14.5 points. Don't care who wins. I hope SJSU gets it, but we're taking San Jose State on the spread. Next up, we move on to another game here in the A10. Well, we didn't pick the first A10 game we had, or we talked about briefly today, between VCU and Dayton, but now we got the Billikens of St. Louis going on the road to take on the St. Joseph's Fighting Hawks. The Hawks. I love just watching St. Joseph's games and just watching their mascot in the corner, the Hawk mascot in the corner of the screen. There's not a minute where the St. Joseph's Hawk isn't flapping his wings. It is hilarious. It's the entire game. He's just doing this. He's doing this the entire game. Like, would your arms not get tired doing this continuously for hours? I mean, it's crazy, but he's committed to the bit, man. Like, that's the hardest working mascot in college sports. I'm serious. So shout out to the St. Joseph's Fighting Hawk. I don't know why St. Joseph's is such a big favorite at home here. I don't get it. I put moneyline St. Joseph's winner. Honestly, I think St. Louis can probably win this game. I'm not gonna pick a winner. We're picking a spread winner, and that spread winner is definitely gonna be the Billikens. St. Joseph's and St. Louis. I think St. Louis is the better basketball team. I think they are. I mean, they've been very, on and off recently. They have split their last 4 games. A loss on the road in D.C. to George Washington, a win over VCU, which is a very good victory. They lose at home to Dayton, and they go to UMass and win. For the St. Joseph's Fighting Hawks, again, more, just up and down basketball. The first game they play against St. Louis, they go on the road to Missouri, lose the game by 16 points. They go to Duquesne, lose by 4. They beat Loyola Chicago at home. They lose to VCU at home. They go to Davidson and win. They go to Dayton and lose. They play Duquesne at home. They beat them. And they go to Loyola Chicago and they lose. That's a bad loss. Loyola Chicago is not that great, but actually, they've kind of turned it on recently, haven't they? Yeah, they've won 3 or 4. But still, I can't take it seriously if you lose to Loyola Chicago. I'm going to be honest. I really can't. They did just beat the Bonnies, though. And I don't think St. Bonaventure's horrible. Regardless, I can't take St. Joseph's all that seriously, especially as a favorite here. 5.5 points against St. Louis, a St. Louis team that has beat them early in the season by double digits. I don't get that. I just don't get it. I'll be honest with you. I don't get it. Robbie Avila has been pretty bad recently, not going to lie. He has done nothing for the St. Louis team recently. The Dayton loss, he shoots 14% from the field and scores 4 points. That can't continue to happen. Gibson Jimerson has been the best guy all year long for St. Louis. Obviously, he's averaging 18 points a game. He's been with St. Louis now. This is his 6th season here with the Billikens. My goodness. And Indeed is calling. But no, we're going to cash hopefully with him today. Isaiah Swoop hasn't been bad, but again, it's Ben Jimerson. We need Robbie Avila, their center, obviously, former Indiana State Sycamore. We need him to really turn it on in this game, right? Kalu Anya has been really good as well. They're one of their bigs alongside Avila. He averages 8 points a game, but those 9 boards a game are really big as well. He's a very good interior force. Again, a very good defender for this Billikens team. For the St. Joseph's Hawks, we faded them in the VCU game earlier this year when VCU came to St. Joseph's and beat them. This team's led by Eric Reynolds, who's averaging 16 points a game, and as well as Xavier Brown. Brown's a pretty good scorer as well, averages 16. Rasheer Fleming going to give you 15.5 and 9 boards a night. I mean, it's not a bad St. Joseph squad, but again, it's just been too inconsistent basketball for them, and same can be said about St. Louis. But when you get 2 inconsistent teams, don't take the team that's a 5.5 point favorite. Take the team that's the dog. And honestly, again, St. Louis, yes, they're inconsistent. St. Joseph's is inconsistent as well. But the Billikens have the better record. They are 7-3 in the A-10. The Hawks are 4-6, like 4-5. I don't mind the spot. I really don't. I don't mind it at all for St. Louis. Again, we don't even need them to win. I don't really care who's the basketball game, but 5.5 points for either of these teams to me just feels like too much. So I think the best thing that we can pick in this game is plus 5.5 for the St. Louis Billikens on the road. I don't think going to St. Joseph's is going to give them too much trouble, especially again when St. Louis beat them earlier in the season by that many points. I think they should be okay here. Again, they beat them by 16 the first time around. Do we see a 22-point swing? Not really anticipating that. Again, I could see the Hawks winning 100%. If I had to pick a winner, I'd probably side with St. Joseph's, but St. Joseph's, my goodness, English is tough. But honestly, I can see the Billikens taking this one. So again, we're staying away from the money line. We're just taking St. Louis at plus 5.5 here, giving the Billikens on the road here at St. Joseph's. We move on to our final game of the video, and we go back to the Mountain West Conferences. We've got the second best team in the Mountain West. That is the Utah State Aggies going on the road to the Save Mart Center in Fresno, California to take on the Fresno State Bulldogs. So a very tough game for Fresno the other day, obviously. Losing at home in triple overtime to the San Jose State Spartans. Again, we talked about that game in length earlier, and Fresno did get a lot of favorable calls in that game. But Fresno, they stuck in it. Right, I didn't think they were going to be that competitive against SJSU, if I'm being honest. Especially, again, they've been without their best player for a while now, and Amar Aguilar. But I mean, Zion Collins has been pretty solid in that spot. Jalen Weaver actually was pretty unstoppable in the SJSU game. Weaver with 23 points for the Bulldogs. Here's the thing: when they're taking on an elite team, they're going to get blown out. It's kind of just what happens to Fresno when they take on elite teams, at least in the Mountain West. And I talk about the elite teams as 3 of them, at least the elite teams on paper. We're talking about Utah State, where Fresno did go on the road and play Utah State very competitively early in the season, only lost by 6. Utah State, I think, is playing better ball than Fresno is right now. And I get it, Utah State doesn't always blow everyone out, but there's a comp I'm going to make in a second that I think will make sense. But the other games Fresno's lost, I mean, they go to Colorado State, they get blown out 91-64. They go to New Mexico to the pit, they get blown out 95-67. Boise, they go on the road and lose by a lot. Fresno is a much worse team on the road, sure. It's not like they have a home court advantage. Trust me, I went to a Fresno State basketball game earlier in this year when they played the Lobos. There was nobody at that game. Yes, it was New Year's Eve, but, you know, nobody's showing up to Fresno State games like that. And it was not like night. It was a 4 o'clock start time, I believe, in Fresno. So it is what it is. Utah State, yeah, they do struggle to blow teams out, but the comp I'll make is when they went to Air Force. They go to Colorado Springs, Colorado to play the Air Force Falcons, who are horrible, who are, I'm not going to say on the same level as Fresno State, because we did see Fresno beat them early this year. That actually was a best bet. We took Fresno in their only victory so far this year in Mountain West play. Because there are levels to this. Like, again, Fresno's bad, but they're not Air Force bad. Let's just be honest. But Utah State goes to Air Force and wins the game by 29 points. I'm not saying they're going to beat Fresno by 30, but they're 12.5 point favorites on the road. I could easily see them winning this game by 15 points, right? And then obviously we win our bet. Since then, for the Aggies, right, they play UNLV at home. They beat them by 5. They lose to New Mexico at home by 19 points. But again, that's just a testament to how good New Mexico is and how great Donovan Dent is and how underrated Nelly Jr. Joseph is for the Lobos as well. And they go on the road to Wyoming. They win the game by 4 points. Again, you may not think that highly of the Wyoming Cowboys, and that's fine. They're not that good. But there's a difference, man, between Wyoming and Fresno State. Fresno State is way worse than the Wyoming Cowboys. They did play to overtime a couple weeks ago. Wyoming ended up winning the game by 11 points in overtime, though. But again, Wyoming is just a better team than Fresno State. Fresno State doesn't play defense. Yes, sometimes they are able to keep up. But when they play solid defensive teams, and I would consider Utah State a solid defensive team, they really struggle. And sure, a lot of Mountain West games are super high scoring, but the games I'll look back to are the Colorado State games. Colorado State held them to under 65 in both the games that they played against Fresno. So again, if Utah State's able to just put out the same type of defensive effort, how like Boise did as well, only holding the Bulldogs to 60 points, then we only need Utah State to score about 75 points. Something that they do pretty much in every single game they play, at least about 75% of the times that Utah State, plays, they score 75. So as long as they're able to keep Fresno to that 60-point mark, hell, even 65, then we still need 80 out of Utah State, which I'm okay with. I think the Aggies can easily score 80. We should be okay. Ian Martinez obviously leading the scoring for the Aggies. He's given you 16.5. Mason Falsev with 14.5. I think we're going to be okay here with Utah State. They play good defensive basketball. They've got a really solid rotation as a whole. All these guys can come in and produce. And as long as they can shut down Fresno, I think we're okay. Again, the guy to watch for the Bulldogs is going to be, I think, Jalen Weaver, who played really well in the San Jose State game. Obviously, Zayon Collins as well is a really good scorer. Alex Crawford can get it done as well. Mikal Robinson, too. But again, the guy to watch, I think, for Fresno is going to be Jalen Weaver. If the Aggies are able to shut him down, I think it's going to be a lot easier, obviously, on the Aggies to win. Watch out for Elijah Price. Pretty good defensive guy. Doesn't really score all that much, but does play a lot of minutes and plays solid defense. But I'm going to take the Utah State Aggies on the road to go to Fresno and cover the 12.5 points again on the road. So folks, thank y'all for watching our 5 best bets for college basketball here on Friday, February 7th. If you have not yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Again, 110 likes in this video, and we're going to do 10 best bets tomorrow for college basketball. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.